Wouldn't it be cool if we added mountain biking? Wouldn't it be cool if we added a hike? Wouldn't it be cool if we put these kids programs together? Wouldn't it be cool if, we tried to do a downtown loop route? Like, that is how all these things come to life, and they all come from feedback.
This is the James Cancer-Free World podcast. I'm Steve Wartenberg, and my guest is Joe Apgar. Joe is the CEO of Pelotonia, and Pelotonia set a new fundraising record in 2025 of $29.2 million. This brought the 17-year total up to $339 million, and every single dollar goes to fund cancer research here at the Ohio State University Comprehensive Cancer Center and James Cancer Hospital. Joe will fill us in on how thousands and thousands of riders, runners, walkers, and volunteers set this new record, the growth of Gravel Day, what's new this year, and the theme for Pelotonia 2026, which is No Limits. Welcome back to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So another year is coming up. It's amazing how time is passing.
Yeah.
But before we talk about the upcoming year, let's talk about your incredible success in 2025, where you set a new record. So I know there's a lot of Gravel Day was new and bigger, but what were some of the reasons, and you were able to just get more people involved and raise more money?
Yeah, I think, 2025 was a banner year by all measures, and we had 7,500 participants, and we added this trail run hike to Gravel Day, which brought a bunch of new people into the Pelotonia experience. And then I think just people fundraised more last year. It was incredible. And I think in a year where, you could argue it was probably needed more than ever, the money for science, the Pelotonia community stepped up, and we were blown away. We were humbled by just the sheer volume of people, the fundraising, just the whole experience last year was awesome.
Do you think that where you said that people, perhaps longtime people, raised more money, and I sort of understand that because over the years, I've created my network of people, and you expand your network, and people know it just becomes, I don't want to say easier, but people become more and more aware of Pelotonia and the person they're donating to, their commitment.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of things. I think people's network grows each year. I think the longer people do it, their donor base sort of just starts penciling it in, right?
Yeah.
I know I'm going to donate to Steve every year. And then I think, look, when the money's being put to really good use and we're able to tell those stories really well to the community, people get excited. They know they're funding something that is making a huge difference, and they can communicate it to people. And so one of the things we've been focusing on as an organization is just our ability to translate what's happening in the lab, to be able to tell that to the community. And I think we've continued to do that sort of year after year over the last few years. And that's a cumulative effect, right? It just adds on to one another. And so I think all those factors, added up to just an amazing year.
You have Dr. Rathmel and Dr. Cohn, who both ride. And Dr. Rathmel, she was only here, I'm not sure exactly, less than a couple months when the first Pelotonia came about. And she was actually already a bit of a cyclist. Yep. And she rode and is really committed. And why is that important that her and Dave Cohn and previous leaders of the James ride and are involved?
I think that's part of the magic of Pelotonia. Having a bike ride for your cancer center is not a unique thing around the country. If you look around the country, there's more than 50 bike rides that support cancer in some way in their community. And so having a bike ride to me is not the unique thing. It's the experience, and it's sort of the magical moments. And to me, one of those things is that the researchers and the physicians and leadership and the nurses and all of the people within the OSU system are on their bikes riding. And I always sort of liken it to, you wouldn't want to eat at a restaurant where the chef won't eat their own cooking, right? And so to know that these people receiving money, that are on the receiving end of the community's fundraising, are doing the same thing that we're doing. They're asking their friends and family for donations. They're explaining, they get to do it in a little bit of a different way. We're sharing, look at this amazing work going on. Will you support me? A lot of times they get to say, this is what I'm doing in the lab. This is what I show up every day. This is what I've committed my career to doing. Will you support me? And so to know that they're out there fundraising, and then to see them volunteering and riding during ride weekends, awesome. I think it adds this sort of humanization element to things where, a lot of the doctors who have treated our community, our riders, our volunteers, are out there, and you'll see these magical moments where, a patient sees their doctor, and the hug, on Friday night at opening ceremony, and the pictures, and that's part of the secret sauce of Pelotonia.
It is so important. It creates the community, because if they were aloof and not part of it, it just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And there are hundreds, you're right, there are hundreds and hundreds of James people who ride. And I've seen them talking to people, and people ask them what they do, and they thank the people and tell them how they're using their money and how important it is to use every penny, accurately.
And it's look, there's other rides around the country that struggle with this, where the physicians and the researchers and the leadership of the beneficiary institution sits back and says, no, you guys ride. Like, I'll spend the money, and it just doesn't land as well. It's not as authentic of an experience. And look, I want to do this with the people, arm in arm in this fight. So,
and I think the leader of the James at the time when this started, Mike Caligiuri, who's since left, that's what he made sure everyone rode. And I just got his fundraising email from him, and he said he's back and he's going to ride.
He's riding 165.
And he's 70 years old this time, and he's still riding the 180 miles, and it'll be great to see him.
Yeah, I just saw him last week. He comes back every year. He does every mile that we offer. He has a great time with it, and it's fun to see that level of engagement from him, from really the person who started this whole thing. Yeah,
so you're in a great position to see where some of these funds go. And so give us some of the impact. I mean, there's just thousands of projects and grants it's Pelotonia has funded, but what are a couple things that really come to mind that have really made an impact?
Yeah, I think a few things for me, a couple things that I continue just to get really excited about. Last week we had the Pelotonia Scholars Symposium. And so this is once a year. All the newly awarded young scholars. So these are the undergraduate students, the graduate students, the postdoc students pursuing research in someone's lab. And then alumni come back. We have some alumni speakers, and there's been close to 750 scholars awarded since the beginning of Pelotonia.
So this is the next generation.
The next generation. This is one of the foundational reasons Pelotonia was started, was to how can you kickstart that next generation and keep them in academic science, and to see what some of these alumni have gone on to do and how the Pelotonia Scholar Award helped launch their career, helped give them that experience in a lab. Some of these people are leading labs all over the country. They're leading really, really important work, both here at Ohio State, but all throughout the country and the world internationally. And so that's sort of really fun and a foundational piece of Pelotonia that gets sort of really exciting. I think some of the other things that are really exciting is, the ability for Ohio State to pursue ideas and projects that are on the cutting edge that, the traditional funding sources just aren't willing to take bets on right now. And so you think about AI, right? You can't go a day in the media without hearing about AI and data. There's so much happening in that world right now where we're sitting on troves and troves and troves of data as researchers, and we have not had the computing power or just the bandwidth to do as much as we can with it over the last, 2 decades. And, one of the things that I keep hearing and feel really confident about is probably the next 3 to 5 years of research and progress will dwarf what's happened in the last 2 decades. Even just because of the speed at which we're going to be able to understand and learn from the data that we already have.
Is that just in terms of recognizing things? Because AI is so good at recognizing patterns, genetic mutations, and things like that.
Yeah, recognizing patterns, discovering, what works, what doesn't from a treatment standpoint.
Right, because they can analyze millions of patients.
What worked. And ultimately, how quick can you get to personalized medicine? I mean, that is, I think, where things are really going, which is no one's cancer's alike, but, for the better part of history, we've treated people's cancers with similar regimens. And so how quickly and how fast can we move towards, protocols where it's an individual protocol for people and from a treatment standpoint? And then on the front end of it, what can we learn from people about prevention. Like, how can you just, the best cancer you get's the one that you never got, right? And so, those are, I think, the really exciting things. And then to see some of the team science that's happening across the university. And I think Pelotonia has been this great mechanism of pulling people from different departments together to work on some really big projects. And, quote Gina Sizemore, who, breast cancer researcher, and, she has always said, Pelotonia gives us the flexibility to work on the hard things, the things that maybe people don't want to touch because they're too hard. It's too hard to get it funded. It's too crazy of a project. And, she's a breast cancer researcher, but she really spends a lot of her time figuring out, why does breast cancer metastasize to the brain? It becomes really deadly. And that's where she's spending her time. And Pelotonia, in a lot of ways, allows her to do that.
We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Joe will fill us all in on what's new for Pelotonia 2026.
The best outcomes for treating cancer come from early detection and early diagnosis.
The James Cancer Diagnostic Center at Ohio State
is designed to provide rapid evaluation and a clear diagnosis.
We are transforming care by giving patients direct access
to cancer experts who study and treat cancer every day.
If you think you have cancer, the choice is clear.
Choose the James Cancer Diagnostic Center.
We're back with Joe Apgar, and let's start talking about Pelotonia 2026, which is just the opening ceremony is just a little over 3 months away.
Yeah.
So let's start with the opening ceremony. What's new there, and then go from there over the whole weekend and then Gravel Day.
Yeah. So we just announced our opening ceremony music. So, one of the things we've really learned over the past few years is, for a long time we were toying and tweaking kept changing. What's opening ceremony? Do you have a big speaker? We've had some great speakers. Music seems to be the thing that just universally excites people. So the last few years, we've had some great bands. We've had Andy Grammer. We had OAR last year. So this year, we're super excited. Andrew McMahon is coming to play. And so a lot of people know him from...
He's been in 3 different bands.
3 different bands. So Something Corporate, Jack's Mannequin, and Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness.
Wow.
And
okay.
I think he's probably in his mid-40s. In terms of age, but when he was 21 or 22, so same age that I was when I had cancer, he had AML, acute myeloid leukemia.
A blood cancer.
He had blood cancer and had that while he was in one of these bands. And so a lot of the music, from when he was going through treatment to beyond treatment and his survivorship journey, a lot of his music's informed by that. And so he's got this amazing stories, sort of really upbeat, fun music. He's actually going to play, something he sort of rarely does. He's a pianist, and he's an amazing, artist on the piano. And, all of his different bands, it's different people that he's had in these bands. And, of course, they're all talented enough to sort of play the different genres of music that he plays. But he has his own foundation called the Dear Jack Foundation, which is, I believe it's based up in Detroit. It is an organization that raises money for the support and support services of adolescent and young adult cancer patients and their families, just stemming off of his experience. And they have a gala once every few years, and he will sometimes perform. He's done it a handful of times where he performs a solo piano show where he story tells his cancer experience into all the songs and in between the songs, like a really intimate but high energy experience for people. And I think with his story and just the way that we love to kick off the weekend, it's going to be just an awesome fit.
He's going to do that solo performance piece.
Yeah.
With telling a story. Wow, that will
be really
be
cool.
Pretty emotional.
I'm super excited about it. And so that'll kick off Friday, and then August 1st and 2nd, Saturday, Sunday, we've got new routes. We've gotten in this habit of tweaking the routes every year. Some of it is because we want to keep things fresh, and some of it is because there's so many orange barrels and construction going on in Central Ohio that we need to change and reroute things. So, we sort of always center things around a 25, a 50, and 100. And how do you go from there?
That's Saturday.
That's Saturday. So mileage will end up 23, a 46. Both of those go from downtown to New Albany. We've got a 66, which goes from New Albany to Kenyon, and then our 100, which goes from downtown to Kenyon. This year, for the very first time, but by popular demand, we're adding something even shorter. So we're adding a 17-mile route. Starts downtown, we'll go through Bexley, come back downtown, and then up through campus and back. And so it'll, what we call a loop route. So it finishes where it starts. And it takes away a lot of the logistics of needing, to get from point A to B and someone to pick you up and your bike and all that stuff.
But that's a great idea because I've already talked to 3 or 4 people who are doing that, who didn't think they could do 25.
Correct.
Because they're busy. They don't even have a bike yet. And it just gets people involved. Yeah.
And I think it's a couple things. So you hit on that one is something shorter than 25. It's less intimidating. It's going to be a pretty flat route. It's a very approachable route. If you think about like some of the people that we've seen sign up, there's a lot of people in this, we're next door to the hospital right now, right? Recording this. There's a lot of people in that tower that are sick today.
Yeah.
And have set a goal that they want to participate in Pelotonia. Like that is the goal that they're going to set for themselves when they get out of that bed. And 17 miles becomes a lot more approachable for someone in that, sort of state of health and coming back from a physical thing like that. So we're really excited about that. The demand's been great. The demand on the 17, 23, and 46 have all been super high. And as we stand here today, the 46 has sort of reached our capacity limit. The 100 will of course be as popular as ever. And then on Sunday, we're bringing back, this post-COVID sort of 30-ish mile loop route. Starts and finishes in New Albany. That'll look like 27 miles this year. And then we've got a 65-mile return from Kenyon back to New Albany, which is the overnight.
For the people who stay overnight.
And so that looks like 165 in total this year. It's down from 180 last year. It's been up to 200 in previous years. The way, we took some miles away, but the way I've been thinking about it is, Saturday you get sort of a standard century, and on Sunday you get a metric century.
Okay.
So you're not lying if you said you did back-to-back centuries.
There's going to be very few people who do the 2-day 165 who are going to say, I wish it was longer on day 2.
They're out there. There's always a couple, but
they can just keep,
they can do another few laps in New Albany.
Start a little early up in Gambier and go up and around the giant hills on campus. And then start.
Exactly.
Get a pre-dawn. So, okay. So those are sort of the new things on Ride Weekend, early August 1st and 2nd.
Yep.
And then the big growth seems to be on Gravel Day, which is later.
Yeah, Gravel Day will be October 3rd this year, which is a Saturday, first Saturday of October. So last year we introduced this trail run hike. We had no idea if it would be fun, if people would like it, if people would sign up. We had about 350 people last year that came out and did it. And I didn't actually do the trail hike. I rode on the gravel route, and then I came and I just watched people sort of going through the loop and finishing on the hike. And, a couple things happened last year. One is we've got a lot of people that don't love cycling off the sideline. And so this was their first time participating
to
run or walk. But it's a lot of the people had been around Pelotonia for a really long time donors, long-time volunteers. We had a lot of people volunteer Ride Weekend and then come do the hike on Gravel Day. And the energy was just like through the charts, just the emotion, people loved it. And it was one of those things where we were standing there on Saturday and we were like, I guarantee this hike blows up next year, because the people were just going to go back and talk about it and how much fun they had. And like, in a lot of ways, I think any nonprofit, any organization that hosts events, a little bit of it is how do you drive as much FOMO as possible and sort of the fear of missing out. And I think we did that really well last year.
So last year you had how many runners and hikers?
About 350 runners and hikers.
And what do you think this year?
I think, we're going to cap it because we want to, Gravel Day has a maximum capacity from a parking and just sheer size of the place. I think 500 would be a really good number. We've got capacity on the gravel ride. We had about 250 people do the gravel ride last year, which was, like a 12 mile, a 22 mile, and a 50 mile. Probably not getting those exactly right, but ish. If you add ish on any of my mileages, you're going to come close. So we'll have those same routes again this year, and then we're adding mountain biking this year. So the piece of property we use down in Nelsonville for Gravel Day is adjacent to the Bailey's Trail System, which is a state-run organization that is building out 80 to 90 miles of single-track mountain bike course, all connected. I think the stat is it's the largest connected sort of single-track experience east of the Mississippi.
Wow,
It's amazing. It is an absolute gem of a resource that we have. And our state and a lot of nonprofits are putting a lot of money into building this out. And they've got amazing infrastructure and trailheads. And so the woman who leads that, her name's Jessie, participated and came to see Gravel Day and was just really key in getting us to use part of that trail for the hike last year. A guy named Ryan Hughes, who a lot of people know, long time. I think he's ridden since the very first year in Pelotonia. He runs an organization called Combo, Central Ohio Mountain Biking Organization. And since the day we started Gravel Day, we started Gravel Day with 5 community advisors helping us. Ryan was one of them. Greg Moran was one of them. Brody Wakefield, Eric Tippett, and a couple other people. The dream was always, and it was said at the very first meeting we had, if this is successful, you'll eventually add mountain biking because the infrastructure's there, the community's there.
If the gravel ride
if we could get
successful.
this off the ground and actually sustaining as an event, which we have. So we've had 3 great years of the event. And so this year in year 4, we're adding mountain biking as an option. So there'll be a 10 and a 24-mile mountain bike route this year.
That you do once, or you can do multiple times?
You'll do it once.
Yeah. Unlike the hiking, you
could keep going. But it's really self-contained.
Okay.
Yeah,
just because of logistics, you do it
logistics
once.
And just time. I mean, 24 miles on a mountain bike on that course will probably take 4 hours, 3-4 hours, I guess. So we're adding that this year. We did this awesome camp out last year on Friday night. We'll bring that back.
How many people did you get camping out last year?
Oh, several hundred.
Yeah,
it was
someone
crazy.
was telling me about that. Yeah, it sounds like it's quite the party.
Yeah, we had tons of tents, and this was one of those things where like, let's just put it out there, and we'll kind of figure it out. And so last year when we put out this camping thing, reserving a campsite became a thing because we had so many people interested, and so we've got this campsite reservation system that we have, and we probably had 80 or so tents, RVs. Some people just use their van or their Subaru and sleep in that. But we had perfect weather. There's a lodge about 3 miles down the road where some of our team stays. So about half of our team tented, and half of our team stayed in a hotel. Which
I have to ask, which did you do?
I was in the hotel.
Okay.
Yeah,
you got to get up early.
I have a bad back, so I didn't want to risk it.
I bet a lot of people on your team said they had a bad back.
Yeah, after sleeping in a tent. Yeah, exactly. So it's fun. Yeah. And then I think the other big thing for us is this kids program that's really blown up. And
I have been seeing that. And I think you did it brilliantly in that you getting people out there to individually sponsor all these different kids events instead of you doing it, right?
It just wouldn't scale with us, right? We have 18 full-time staff, 3 part-time staff, and so we just don't have the manpower to put on 20 or 25 kids rides throughout the year. But our community is so passionate. Our community, they're the ones with the kids, and they're the ones that live in the neighborhoods, and so we've sort of built this event in a box where we've got resources. We've got the swag and the shirts, and we've got the truss, and we've got some fencing and tents, and here's all the stuff you need to put on a great kids ride. Here's sort of the playbook to do it, but there's a lot of flexibility around it. So you get to make it how you want to make it, how it fits in your neighborhood. And the first year we had 6 kids rides. Last year we had 11. This year I think we're penciled in for over 20 already. And this is a partnership really formed between the James and Nationwide Children's Hospital. And a lot of people don't realize that the cancer researchers at Nationwide Children's Hospital are actually faculty at Ohio State.
Yeah.
And you have these brilliant, brilliant people working on things towards pediatric cancer. There's already a ton of research collaborations happening. And a lot of people in the Pelotonia community have young kids who were, quite frankly, feeling left out of the experience. Their experience for so long was holding a sign at the finish line or the start line. And so to be able to bring this kids program to life, but really have it come to life through the community has been super fun. And I try to go to as many of the rides as I can on the weekends. And, you know, for me to be able to show up, I usually bring my daughter who's 7, who, you know, she's collecting all these. I had to tell her last year, like, hey, you got to stop taking a medal at every, at every ride. They're all the same medal.
Okay. Because you supply those.
Yeah,
so
we're supplying them. Yeah, I'm like, hey, like, you got to quit taking so many of those. And but to see Pelotonia through a kid's eyes, I think is really, really special.
And they raise money.
They raise money. It's totally optional. The first priority for us is make it a great experience for kids. We ask a lot of our community to raise money, to give up time training, to all this stuff. And so how do we lead this program really with make it fun, make it a great experience for kids, for families? We have the option to fundraise. And so some of the rides require, a $20 donation. Some of the rides don't require anything. Some of the rides,
that's up to the people organizing it.
It's up to the people organizing it. Yeah. We partnered with a tech platform that's outside of our normal website that lets these groups sort of plug in and stand up their own pages really quick. And, last year we raised, I think, close to $170,000. First year was $85,000. So we doubled last year. I have no doubt we'll be above $200,000 in fundraising this year. And so with that program, so that's been really, really fun to watch it come to life.
And you're building the next generation of riders, runners, walkers, volunteers, cancer researchers, maybe too.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully we can inspire these kids to, grow up and give back to their communities in some way. Like that's, I think the minimum hope is like you can do a lot of good in your community if you get involved in things you like. Hopefully sprinkled through there, we're inspiring some young scientists who want to go pursue this work.
Kids are pretty amazing, though.
Kids are incredible.
It's just a great thing to get them involved.
Yeah.
So, and that brings us to your theme for this year. So, give us a sense of how do you pick a theme?
Yeah.
And then what does it mean, and how do you get it out there?
Yeah, it's a great question. We didn't have like this, what's the rallying cry or what's going to be the tagline for this year. And we were stressing ourselves out about it. Like, kept showing us stuff. And
Did you have dozens and dozens of possibilities?
We had a lot. And
this reminds me of when they were trying to come up with the name that
name
eventually
Pelotonia.
Became Pelotonia.
Yeah. And I will tell you, I think this kind of stuff is the difference between good and great. Like it's just gotta feel right. And this is the details that really matter. So, we're standing on stage at Night of Impact last year.
When you announce how much
we're
money
announcing,
you got.
And so this is probably about 10 minutes before we announce the final total. And, there's a program and it's a run a show. And I am sort of emceeing the night and standing on stage the whole time. And it's hard to keep track of everything while you're standing up there. And so we had Samik Roy Chowdhury comes up to speak. And he's sharing some of his work, and he's sharing this clinical trial that he has that's really nationwide and it's first of its kind. And he said to the community, he said, the reach of your impact has no limits, and Pelotonia has no limits. And he turned around and winked at me. Like mid, standing up there. So we get off the stage and he's like, I think that's it. I think you guys, your campaign next year should be No Limits.
Did he know you were looking for?
No.
Okay.
He had no idea. And so we went back to the office. Katie, who leads our marketing, she came to my desk the next morning and she was like, I love No Limits. And I was like, I love No Limits too. So I emailed him. I said, hey, we want to run with this. Like, I know you don't have it trademarked or anything, but I want to give you the courtesy, like you've inspired this. So No Limits came from Samik, of all places. We don't want to give the researchers too much creative liberty, though. Like, they gotta stay in their lane. But it's been fun, and I like the campaign this year. I think it's gotten people really excited.
Wow, so much going on, and you and your team are really good at all the things you just said: creating new things, creating excitement, keeping things new and exciting.
Yeah.
So,
I think that is probably what we are best equipped to do. And we've talked about this before. We read feedback and we take feedback, and the good and the bad and the critical. And I'm probably our own worst critic, in everything we do. And I think, to me, if you do that from a healthy vantage point, that's really good for the organization. But I think we are better at almost anyone that I've met at sitting in a room, team meeting, whatever it is, and it can be anyone in our organization. Wouldn't it be cool if we insert blank? I mean, that comes up all the time. Wouldn't it be cool if we did whatever?
There's no bad ideas.
And we can do it. And so a lot of things that people have seen come to life quick, like, just happen. And they all start from, I was meeting with so-and-so, and we were talking, like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this thing? Wouldn't it be cool if we added mountain biking? Wouldn't it be cool if we added a hike? Wouldn't it be cool if we put these kids programs together? Wouldn't it be cool if, we tried to do a downtown loop route? Like, that is how all these things come to life, and they all come from feedback. Like, we are not trying to invent anything, ourselves. It's like, let the community tell us what they want to do, and then let us go do it, hopefully better than anyone else is doing it.
Well, good luck. And hopefully this year you can set another new record, and I'll look for you in August in Gambier at the end of our ride.
I love it. Thank you, as always.
This podcast is brought to you by the Ohio State University Comprehensive Cancer Center, Arthur G. James Cancer Hospital, and Richard J. Solove Research Institute. For more information, check out our website, cancer.osu.edu.